person A and person B. If we look into the slope of this curve at point A, let's say I am here, somebody else is here. What is their experience of walking?
A have to cover more distance vertically.
Right.
But in
Person B is definitely going to find it easier. Why? Because what happens? Find it easier because
he don't need to cover more distance.
you have to apply more effort to cover vertical distance. Why? Because of gravity. Gravity is pulling you downward. If you go higher, gravity is trying to pull you downwards, right? Yes. But in the case here, a person has to make only horizontal move, like walking on the floor, right? Walking on the ground, smooth ground. But for this fellow here, what does he have to do?
He has to cover more distance.
And he does not have that space where he can make horizontal move and then vertical move, right? He has to make more of vertical move and he has a little bit of space for horizontal move. So steps here are going to be higher. He has to move this much to move this much of horizontal distance, right? To cover, the person needs to cover vertical distance this much to cover only this much of horizontal distance. But while here, you see what's happening, a person moves this much of when he walks from here to here, the person covers this much of what? Horizontal distance, and he covers this much of vertical distance. Downwards, vertical distance is downwards here. So whenever you are walking downwards, of course it's going to be easier. Similarly, let's say a person is somewhere here. Right? What will happen again in this case? He has to walk this much of vertical distance to cover only this much of horizontal distance. So wherever there is more slope, you can see that the person is traveling or covering more vertical distance and less horizontal distance. Right? Yes.
A कोले सिधै स्टेप B को अन्त अगाडि राख्यो भने त त्यसले गर्छ.
But he's taking this path, he's not taking this path here. He's taking this path, he's not taking from here to here, he's not going from here to here. You are talking about another way. You are considering another path. Let's consider this path. He is saying that what happens if, like this. Right? So, if a person goes from here to here, of course, what is happening here at this point? How much is, if he wants to come from here to here, he covers, you see, here. He covers more horizontal than here, right? The vertical distance is same, right? The vertical distance is here this much, the vertical distance here is this much. But the horizontal distance was this much here, but the horizontal distance here is more. So therefore, this path is less. This path is less slopey. Less slopey. How about if I take another path? This one. This is even less slopey because but to reach here, to come here, right? To come where, Baba? Here, I cover this much horizontal distance and this much vertical distance. Look at these three paths. The yellow, the green and the colorful. What is the difference? You are reaching the same point here, I am reaching the same height here, I am reaching the same height here. Vertical distance is same, right? From the base, the vertical distance is here, this one. From here, the same. From here, the same. The vertical height is Same. But what is happening in this one? The first, the second, the third. What is the only difference? To reach this height, you are covering the same vertical distance but less horizontal. You are covering the same vertical distance but you are covering less horizontal and more horizontal. To cover the same vertical distance, you are covering more horizontal. Right. And similarly, if I take another path here, let's say a straight one, I'm covering more, even more. I'm covering the same vertical distance, but to cover the same vertical distance, I'm covering more horizontal distance. So, if you cover the same vertical distance by covering more horizontal distance, what is happening is the slope of the path is changing, of course, but in which way? It's decreasing. So, in common language, which one is more slopey? This one, this one, this one, this one. First one is slopey up to here, huh? Up to here. It's all about up to here. Up to here. This one is more slopey. And then this one. And then this one. Okay? Alright, this is how we try to understand what slope is. And how do we translate that mathematically? Using ratio. Whenever you have to compare something, generally the comparison happens by finding the ratio of two things. Right? If you want to compare the prices of the apples, of Chinese apples and Nepali apples, how do we compare? We find the ratio. But what kind of ratio? What kind of ratio? So Nepali apples, let's say, I'm talking about the importance of ratio. Listen carefully, don't scratch your head. For example, you have 2 dozens, if you get 2 dozen Chinese apples for Rs 240, and if you get 3 dozens Nepali apples for, let's say, 520, if you want to compare, you have to find the ratio. For 1 dozen, you find 1 dozen Chinese, how much does it cost? 240 divided by 2. Similarly, 1 dozen Nepali, 520 divided by 3. So if you compare them, and where do you get more? So this one is 180 rupees, right? Sorry, no. 120 rupees per dozen. This one is
173.
173.
Point
Something. So which one is more expensive? This one is more expensive. Similarly here also, what do you do in order to compare, in order to find which one is more slow? You find the ratio of vertical distance with the horizontal distance in all these 3 cases. And whichever has the highest slope. Has the highest